Decisions, decisions. And the environment. There's a lot of worrying news about the state of the environment at the moment, so I'm going to give you some ways to help consider the environment in every decision that you take. My name's Martin Gibson, and I'm from Earthly Gains. Every time we use resources, there's an impact on the environment. First of all, let's think about life outside work. At home, we use a lot of resources for the buildings that we live in. We also have furniture. That uses resources too. Not to forget things like curtains, which use materials. And then there's things that use energy. So things like lighting, televisions, speaker systems, appliances, and heating. There's a lot of other stuff in our houses that also uses resources. And let's not forget, there's food, because that can have quite a big environmental impact depending upon what we eat and where it came from. So every decision you make about buying something will have an impact on the environment. What about decisions when we're at work? Well, of course, we'll have a lot of impacts that are similar to those at home. But many of our decisions will have far-reaching consequences because they'll affect the people that use our products or services and the people that we buy from. Whatever line of work you're in, you'll probably have more influence on your suppliers and customers than you realize. If you make the right decisions, you can help them make the right decisions too. Another place where our decisions affect the environment is whenever we travel, whether we decide to take a bus, train, car, or, probably the biggest impact, when we fly. So whenever you're going to buy something or use something, think of it in this order. The thing that's cheapest and best for the environment by far is not to use any stuff. Now, of course, life isn't great if you don't have any stuff or go anywhere. So when you are doing something, use the minimum possible to get what you want. Think of that as reducing the amount of stuff that you're using. Next, use something again. So don't throw out your coffee cup every time you use it. Wash it and use it again. That's reuse. You're very familiar with that. But if you can't reuse something, what do you do next? Well, turn it into raw material again so it can be made into something else. That's recycling. And then finally, if you're throwing something out and can't do anything else with it, well, perhaps bury it to dispose of it. Just a little aside here. Some people think that disposing of it by burning it to get energy from it is a better way of doing things than just burying it. But it's not always that straightforward. So if you do things from the top down, it allows you to make decisions that reduce your environmental impact. And you can do this for any type of decision, whether it's buying that new mobile phone or how to get to where you're going. So this approach to thinking is often thought of as the resource or waste hierarchy. And it's important that you don't start from the bottom and work up, because what tends to happen there is people think they've got something that's low value, so they think, oh, well, maybe I'll recycle it. But if you look at this hierarchy, recycling is the next to worst thing you can do. Yes, it's usually better than throwing something away, but you've already made all the environmental impact from producing that thing in the first place. So, think from the top down. While there's a lot of environmental impact from the stuff we use, of course there's also an awful lot from the energy we use. So whether it's electricity, fuel for our cars, or maybe things to heat our home. Here, you can use the energy hierarchy to inform how you make decisions. As with the resource and waste hierarchy, if you don't have to use something, that's best for the environment and the cheapest. So do you actually need to use energy for the outcome that you're after? Very often the answer to that question is yes, you need to use energy. So can you use less? Can you be as efficient as possible? Most people's biggest energy use is in heating the buildings they live and work in and the water that they use and in their transport. So think of how you can be energy efficient in your building, perhaps by insulating it more, or in your transport by choosing the way in which you travel, and if, say, you're traveling by car, by trying to use the most fuel efficient car and perhaps share the ride. Once you've done that, you've used the least energy possible, think about where it's coming from. Can you get it from a renewable energy source? Increasingly, energy in many industrialized countries is coming from renewable sources such as wind. So if you can use that, it has less impact on the environment than if you use fossil fuels. The next thing you might consider is, can you offset your emissions? So by this we mean you're releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere from the energy you're using. Can you grab that and put it into something else? Now, that usually means growing trees or something similar. And that does bind up carbon dioxide for a little while. But if you really want to be serious about offsetting, you need to bury it back in the ground as if it were a fossil. Unfortunately, that's not very easy to do at the moment. In fact, I don't think there are any offsetting schemes that do that. So maybe it's one for the future. Finally, you're going to be ending up using fossil fuels. So go back up to the top and think, how do I use less? Using these hierarchies when you're making decisions will help you to make decisions that are better for the environment. If you make the right decision, you can help the environment, and we can all have a better quality of life. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you for listening.